This is TWiT. What do you think of the Great Resignation? I know this isn't a tech subject, but
it kind of is, yeah.
I'm part of it, so I mean.
Did you resign? Did you say, I'm done, I don't want this crappy job, I'm out of here?
I mean, it wasn't that simple, but I think that I was like part of. I think it's a lot about just literal economics, right? Like having some of these jobs became riskier, and the market
because of COVID
account for that.
Yeah.
I think it was also just like I like thought about more like how I wanted to be spending my time, like what was the most important
quality
to me.
of life trumps and I think your generation was sold a bill of goods by my generation, by the boomers, that, well, you work 9 to 5, 6 days a week, you put in the time, we're going to take care of you. And then it turned out, no, we're not, in fact, going to take care of you at all. And this isn't a good life. It's not a good life. There's a subreddit that I've become addicted to called anti-work, where people just post, all of the nasty things their bosses made them do, and quitting, and all of this. Here's a perfect example. A tweet: sick of people saying my generation is poor because we don't work hard. My grandpa worked as a janitor his whole life, was able to support a wife and 5 kids in a 2-story house. Now, if you work as a janitor, you can hardly afford to live by yourself in a 1-bedroom apartment. That's accurate, and I don't blame people saying I'm fed up. At the same time, you kind of have to work, don't you? You can't just go home and watch TV. So I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think about just like how much has changed, though. I was like reflecting on this the other day because when I was 18, I worked at Starbucks, and you couldn't even wear like leggings. Like you had to wear like formal like black dress pants. And I took out my nose ring in the bathroom every day. Again, I was 18. But now you go in there.
You must have left it in the bathroom because I don't see it.
Yeah, I know. I'm past that stage, Leo, thankfully. Past my nose ring stage. But
hey, Jack Dorsey put us back in.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I saw that. I mean, I think I have no regrets. It was definitely a look, but now you go in there and like there's a lot more freedom. There's a lot more. I think it's also like changing cultures about like tattoos and piercings. But I noticed on like their little bulletin board, it was like, if you refer someone, you get like several $100s or something, and you see sort of like a lot more of these companies are trying to accommodate workers. And I think it's great. I mean, I think that like there's a better appreciation of labor now because, the attitude was definitely you should be so grateful to be here. Right. And I think that now there's a lot, this is a transaction between 2 people and the worker also has power. I think is, what this moment is showing us. And I'm all for it.
I wonder how much it has to do with the fact that the last 2 years, we'll just round up and say that has had so much to sort of give us subject matter to think existentially. Where it could be getting ill, losing a job,
I agree.
losing a source of income, having a loved one ill, things going political, and so it's been the natural impulse of thoughtful people to reevaluate their purpose, and that's sort of driving a deeper desire, guided by a deeper understanding to do something meaningful. It seems like we've always given lip service to that, but the context of the last 18 months, 2 years has really been more of a catalyst to actually make it happen in principle, not just talk about it.
And, I think to tie it to tech, I think that
yes, please,
the Great Resignation has been.
Otherwise, I'm in trouble.
No. But, I think a lot of this has been happening in tech. A lot of it has to do with, remote work and like the idea that like you can now get a job not from like this set of companies in a specific geography, but like any company in the world is now bidding for your services. If you're a software engineer or a marketer or have in-demand skills. It's also global. In China, it's called the lie flat movement.
Oh,
so which is what it sounds like. Like I am just going to lie down on the floor and like not work, because in China, especially, tech workers are exhausted. There's this 996 system, meaning you work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, which actually the government there, the Chinese government has been cracking down on it as a labor abuse. But yeah, I think that it's worldwide. That's probably what's most fascinating, and that's probably, as Evan points out, it has a lot to do with the pandemic that we're all experiencing at the same time. That's kind of making us question, like, why am I working? How much risk am I taking on by working? It's really changed those calculations.
Well, it's clear that the pandemic exposed some huge fault lines in the economy, in our country, and globally as well.
I think it's worth noting, though, that like the lying flat movement is also like even bigger than just the pandemic, right? I think it's like, to your point, Leo, about like, no offense, what your generation maybe sold some of my generation, because I think it's also about like just not wanting to participate in this rat race at all, right? Like realizing like the idea of like, okay, I'm going to leave my village, I'm going to move to Beijing.
There's got to be something better than that.
Yeah, and it's interesting, to your point, Owen, about like the backlash of some of this from the government, some of the companies. I thought it was interesting that I think it was like within 24 hours, at least 48 hours of sort of this like big shakeup at ByteDance, the owner of TikTok. The CEO sort of like receding, and it seems like one of the very last things that sort of came down before this big executive shakeup is that they actually ended working that way. So now the hours are much more sort of like normal working hours. So they ended the expectation that you would work 9 to 9, 6 days a week. And now I think, let me see what the hours are now, but it's like they shortened them to like, more normal work hours. And I do wonder if that's also part about like retention, right? And like being able to keep people in an environment where workers are like, hey, wait a minute, I have a little bit more bargaining power here than I used to.
Well, it's also the case that during COVID, you saw these billionaire moguls become even more rich. It was a big windfall for people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And I have to say, the other tech angle is that this maybe all began with tech workers, particularly engineers, who realized they were so valuable to the company that they didn't have to put up with crap, that they could say, no, we're not going to do that. And the company would have to say, oh, because you guys are valuable. You're much more valuable because there's a scarcity of talent. It's not a friction-free market. It costs us a lot to get new people, to train them up, to give them stock options. I think that also is part of it. It started
10 to 7, 5 days a week.
That's crazy.
So that's
are they all in the same
reasonable.
time zone?
Yeah.
Is it the same time zone?
Also, remote work, it turns out, no employer wants remote work, right? But every employee loves the idea. Not everybody. Some people like the social aspect of coming to work. But a lot of employees are going, hey, this work from home is great. Now, obviously, you can't do that if you're a barista at Starbucks. But for a lot of people, information workers, I could for sure know that Owen and Louise have worked at home a lot. I could work at home. I don't. I come into a studio. I don't know about you, Evan. Do you have to go practice law, or can you just do it at home?
I've been working at home most of the time. The last 18 months. We're starting to reopen, but I like to stay home as much as I can.
Nobody's in a hurry to get back to the office.
No.
I've had some flexibility for a while, but I still think I like look back on the fact that I would go to the World Trade Center like multiple times a week, and I still get like this. I get like that's spooky to me.
Yeah.
Like it still seems crazy that we did that.
Who did you work for in the World Trade Center?
That's where Condé Nast is, the owner of Wired Magazine.
The old World Trade Center? No, the new one.
The new one, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
What floor?
Yeah. That's a good question. We moved around. I don't even remember what the last floor was.
That's a hella tall building. I'd be a little nervous, to be honest, to be anywhere in a World Trade building.
Honestly, it was very, very scary when there were storms, because you would be in the eye of the storm, and you could feel like a little bit of like swaying sometimes. And during my interview, I was up against like a floor to ceiling window behind me, and I was like starting to feel sick. like I was already nervous about my job interview. I got the job, but because I would look behind me and it was just like so far down.
High. Yeah.
Right. But
scary.
I guess I'm the poster child for the new hybrid work style, because I came into our office, mostly so I could, record this podcast with you good people.
Thank you.
And have a quiet environment and not bug my husband.
Right.
Right. So it was nice to have the option.
That's what I do. I don't want to. It's much easier for me to do this in a studio. Also, there's a certain something about getting dressed up instead of sliding over
totally
in your slippers and jammies to the microphone. It's just there's
you
something
feel
about
like
it.
a real person.
Yeah.
And I also think there are like tensions or things that you assume about people. Like they give off like a different Zoom energy, and then you meet them in real life and you're like, oh, like I made so many like wrong assumptions about how we were communicating or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I do think like breathing the same air as people is important, but I don't think you need to do it every day. But I really do think that there is some value.
A little bit.
Yeah. Company retreats, like take all the rent and put it into like nice vacations for your whole team.
There you go.
Yeah.
Instead of building giant penis buildings downtown San Francisco with dancers in the roof.